the summer of '69. These are the design boards that kind of bridge the gap between the longboards and the shortboards of the early '70s. So really it was taking sort of the old, trying to make it to the new, but it wasn't quite there. They were boards right around the 7'6" to 8-foot range. They had round tails on them, and the decks were what known as an S deck, and what this did was allowed the rocker to be really straight, because they thought instead of tail rocker, you wanted the tails really straight so the boards would go really fast. So our test pilots for the summer of '69, Willie Asprey, a North Shore resident and surfs up and down the North Shore, very versatile surfer. Our other test pilot, Leah Dawson, she jumped at the chance to do this. She says, look, anybody wants to do it, I'm the person to do it. So just embrace the idea of riding boards that are literally 50 years old. One by one, what they did was paddle boards out. We asked them to ride 2 or 3 waves each, switch boards, and in the lineup, they really compared and gave their input to each other what they liked.
I haven't ever surfed that many boards in a session.
No, me neither. It was rad to, just have the same waves and really get to like see the difference from one to the other.
Sunset Point at 3 to 5 foot is a perfect way for this project because it's just suited enough for size to get these boards going and really allows the surfers to put them through the paces.
Summer of '69.
They didn't feel that old.
No.
They felt like they still had some pop and
some life.
It was ironic because Willie would like a wide one, Leah would like a narrow one, or vice versa. Out of these 9 boards, all similar, they had their favorites, and they'll tell you which ones they really liked. Willie and Leah just took out the Weber ski. Now the Weber ski was designed by Nat Young, probably the most prolific of all the boards from that era. We have a Weber wide, which is 22 inches wide, and it's designed mostly for the East Coast. This one's 7'2". And then we have a Weber narrow, which was 7'3", and only 20 inches wide. This one designed more for Hawaii than anywhere else.
Feels good. It feels like something I'd want to ride out here on a normal day.
Oh my, the rails are crazy.
Yeah. Which one did you like between the Webers?
I like the wide boy. I thought it was really fun.
Really, given the choice between those two, I like the wide one. I like the way that the weight carries when you're turning. It really feels like it's pulling you around in the turn.
Yeah.
So now we're going to switch over to Dewey Weber's competition, which was Bing, and the Bing foil, which is coming up next.
This one may have gotten ridden quite a bit. I feel some footsteps in there. It's awesome. Oh my gosh. I imagine this was as close to a shortboard as they got for a while. This thing feels like a knife.
The Bing foils, Bing from the South Bay of LA. The wide one, a little bit shorter at 6'10" with 20 inches wide. Predominantly designed for the East Coast and or small California. Bing foil narrow, 21.5 inches wide and at 7'2".
I got one wave where I was just going straight, and it was like a rocket ship.
Okay.
But then turning it there were some sticky spots, and yeah.
I remember that one high up in the curl.
Yeah.
So the genesis of the designs for the summer of '69 were really the Aussie contingent. It actually had its start in the fall of 1968 when they had the World Championships in Rincon, Puerto Rico. These guys brought boards that were more progressive than what anybody else was riding and really set the tone for the manufacturers in America to decide what they're going to offer 6 months later in the summer of '69. And at that contest, the old guard guys like Paul Stroud, Fred Hemmings, Mike Doyle, Russell Hughes were all kind of the longboard guys that were making the transition to shortboards. But really the dominant factor was the Australians, and Nat Young, Keith Paul, Ted Spencer, Wayne Lynch. These guys had been designing and testing what was then considered the shape of the time. What happened is all the Americans and all the American manufacturers saw what was going on in October of '68, and they rushed to come out with a design that sort of matched what the Aussies had. And back then there was no digital, there was no videos, there was nothing. It was really, a surf contest brought the hot surfers together, so you really wouldn't see that until almost 6 months later. And interestingly enough, the American manufacturers scrambled to sign up the Aussies to really use their design talents and of course their surfing. So Nat Young went with Dewey Weber, Keith Paul went with Bing Copeland, Midget Fairley went with Gordon Smith, Bob McTavish went with Maury Pope. So these Aussie guys were really influencing what came out 6 to 8 months later, and the result was the summer of '69. Now they're going out on a San Diego-based Gordon Smith Magic. So Gordon Smith's version of the round tail from '69, and at first they actually had a big S deck, and then they realized they didn't need so much S deck, so they flattened out.
The deck of this one is so bowled over, whereas this one looks like it's really flat.
Flat. Yeah, that one's got a lot of curve.
More than any of them that we've ridden yet.
So we have two versions of the Magic, one from probably earlier in '69, one from a little bit later in '69. And we have a Magic wide. It was 6'10" by 22 inches wide. The later one, actually they softened the S deck out and flattened it out more to give it a little bit more of an even foil. We'll see how the crew does with their G&S Magics.
The Gordon Smith Magic, this one that he said was the older model.
Right?
I loved it.
It was forgiving, and it was really, really fast. You could paddle that thing almost like a longboard.
It felt super boaty, but it like turned well, and it was smooth. This thing feels so weird.
Yeah, it's floaty.
It's got a big old belly. This Gordon Smith Magic, I liked also, but I thought that one was one of the more kind of foggy ones.
That was the hardest board for me to ride. I think kind of the most unpredictable.
So that's 6 out of the 9. We're down to 3 of the individual ones, and Leah just took out the design one, which actually was made in New York by Bunger Surfboards. And Willie, he's out on the Surfboards Hawaii Aquarius model, which is from San Diego. So we'll see how they like those. And we got one more after that, the Maury Pope, and that'll wrap up the Summer '69 project. Surfboards Hawaii from northern San Diego County with their Aquarius model. That was a full bounty of goods, and this one with a round tail. And this is the biggest board at 7'4" and 22.5.
All right,
I know you didn't like the Aquarius. I kind of really liked it.
But hey, it was, maybe I didn't get the right wave.
Yeah. The Camel Maury Pope.
The Camel running at 6'8" and 21 inches, one of the smallest boards in the test run.
Wow, I'm excited. We'll see how she goes.
Okay, what about the Camel?
I fell a couple times on it where I was thinking it was going to do something different than it was.
Right.
The Camel was a bit disky for me.
I like the weird slipperiness of it.
Our pride and joy.
I think so.
And finally rounded it out at 7 foot by 21.5. The Design 1 reflector shaped by Dennis Schote.
The most well-rounded.
Versatile.
That would be like an actual board I'd have in my quiver and ride.
What I found intriguing at the end of all this was that the board I thought would be one of the biggest dogs turned out to be one of the favorites, a GNS, early GNS with a big heavy S deck. I was really surprised they both liked that board.
That one,
I liked that one.
I think surprised me the most because looking at it, I thought it was going to be my least favorite, and it actually turned out to be one of my very favorites, definitely in the top 3 for me.
Not surprisingly to me, as a designer shaper, the design one, once again shaped by Dennis Short, who's still shaping to this day, really good surfer shaper. His was probably the most refined of all the boards, and they both really like that board.
If I had to pick one of the bunch.
If you had to pick one, that one?
I'd stay with the design.
I might go the same one. Well, that was sick.
That was
Summer
awesome.
of '69. It's really cool to ride boards that old and get some new life out of them and bring them back.
9 boards from all the same summer, and they're so drastically different.
The state of the art was getting pushed this much just in one summer, and then 50 more years goes by, and we've seen a lot since then, but that was a lot of fun to ride those. All right,
All right,
good
Willie.
stuff. Thanks, Leah.